Okay, well, we're off again on another adventure. Guess where we're going this time? Sydney, Australia. We had monsoon rains when we got here, but today was a beautiful day. In fact, we got sunburned today. It was great. Very, very warm day. So, having some fun?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
okay. Well, tomorrow we got on board the cruise ship and we're off to New Zealand. And we'll send more video from there. I'll take more video from there.
Hello once again. I'm Vic, and along with Barbara, we would like to welcome you to our 2020 New Zealand cruise out of Sydney.
2020 turned out to be a bad year with the onset of COVID. Travel came to a screeching halt as country after country placed travel restrictions on everyone.
We were nervous about COVID troubles, and that made us commit a few unforced errors before we even got on the first flight. Barb spent 3 hours on the phone to the airlines making sure her name on the reservation matched to her passport, only to be told, no worries.
Then while checking on open seating on the plane, I accidentally blew away our seat reservations. Oh man, 2 more hours on the phone to the airlines to get that straightened out.
When we got to the Atlanta airport, I left our travel Bible, as we call it, with all our travel reservations and information in Lindsay's car. Oh shit. Had to call her to circle back so I could get it.
We only figured that out after the airlines had no record of our Australian travel visas and no record of our return flight. All of that info was in our Bible. Turns out Princess made 2 one-way reservations and all was good. We just had to keep telling ourselves it was going to be a great trip and push on. So as is our custom, let's go over our ports of call.
We flew Atlanta to LA and then LA direct to Sydney, Australia.
Where we spent 2 days recovering from jet lag and seeing a bit of Sydney, Australia.
Then we boarded the Ruby Princess and set sail.
After 2 days at sea, we enjoyed some scenic cruising through New Zealand's Fiordland National Park,
Followed by a stop in Dunedin,
Akarora,
Windy Wellington,
and it was windy there, Napier,
Tauranga,
the big city of Auckland,
followed by a beautiful Bay of Islands.
then rounding out the north coast of New Zealand and 2 days at sea before docking back in Sydney.
Where we boarded the flight back home.
Speaking of Sydney, let's start there.
You know that old saying, getting there is half the fun? Well, it doesn't apply to flying to Australia.
It takes a long time to get from Atlanta to Sydney. First, there's the 5-hour flight from Atlanta to LA. Then from LA to Sydney is an additional 15 hours.
That's 20 hours of flight time plus the layover. In addition, you cross the international date line so you lose a day, and the equator so the seasons reverse.
We left Atlanta on a winter Friday afternoon.
And had a rocky landing in Sydney on a summer Sunday morning in heavy weather. Barb and I had brought a couple small bags of popped popcorn and some other snacks with us on the plane. While we were going through customs and immigration, we discussed if we wanted to declare it or just skip it.
We did the right thing and got into the something to declare line. Good thing, too, because the agent told us if we hadn't and got caught, it was a $400 fine.
And sure enough, that little contraband dog came over, sniffed our carry-on bag, and sat down next to it. We would have been so busted.
Don't mess with those dogs, they're well trained.
After clearing customs and immigration, we were contacted by our driver to arrange pickup.
Figuring to be tired after the long flight and not having a clue where we were going, we hired a car and driver to get us to the hotel. The wind is gusting to 50 miles an hour and the rain is coming down in sheets. It was a good call on our part.
The hotel was okay, a little dated, and the roof was leaking from the storm, but the room was clean and it overlooked George's Street. George's Street was the first street built in Sydney.
With the bad weather, Vic and I decided to do some quick shopping at the mall next to the hotel and take care of the one thing we couldn't do in the LA airport. Find 2 bottles of wine to take on board the ship with us when we board.
The leaky roof in the hotel was right over the restaurant, so no dinner service tonight. But across the street was a very nice restaurant. Another dash in the rain. After dinner, we run back to the hotel and just chill.
The area of the town we are in is called The Rocks. It is the hip happening place to be when it's not monsooning, and it is a block from the cruise ship terminal.
Royal Caribbean's Radiance of the Sea was docked there when we arrived. Their departure time was 4 p.m.
Because of the high winds, it could not leave until 5 a.m. the next morning.
We fall asleep early and get a good night's rest.
In the morning, the weather is better. They say we could see some sun later. To make sure we do see the sun, Vic leaves his sunglasses at the hotel. Carnival Cruise Lines is in town today. Tomorrow our ship comes in, literally.
Between the hotel and the cruise ship terminal is the Circular Quay. Lunar New Year ended the day before, and the decorations are still up.
We meander around Circular Quay looking at the Chinese zodiac symbols, and then over to the Opera House, a 5-minute walk. Is this a great place to stay or what?
This place is fantastic. With a ferry terminal in the middle of it, there is a constant motion, a very vibrant area.
We booked tickets for the hop-on, hop-off bus for the day. It has 2 lines and goes all around Sydney and even out to Bondi Beach.
There's a stop for the bus in front of the hotel.
Of course! Didn't I tell you what a great place this was to stay?
Oh, hush. There's a stop right over there. Time to hop on, and we're off.
As we cruise around the city, you see Sydney is a blend of old and new.
These ho-ho tours are a great way to get a quick view of the sights.
It would be nice to come back and spend more than a day in Sydney. They have several interesting museums we'd like to check out.
We switched from the red to the blue line bus for the ride out to Bondi Beach.
Bondi Beach is a suburb of Sydney, just a few minutes outside the city center.
And from an attitude perspective, it's miles away. This is a very laid-back area with a world-renowned beach,
which is known for its world-renowned surfing.
Across from the beach, there's a vibrant shopping and dining district. Also, beautiful condos, apartments, and hotels available.
Expensive?
After a stop for lunch,
Cut short by an area-wide power outage.
we hopped back on the ho-ho for the trip back to see the rest of the city.
By this time, the skies had cleared, and we were basking in the warm sun. In reality, we were getting a bit of a sunburn.
When we got back to the stop at the hotel, we hopped off for the last time. I was beginning to feel bad, but chalked it up to the sun and the jet lag.
As we exit the bus, we see all the guests are standing around outside on the sidewalk. The fire alarm was going off in the hotel.
Turns out to be a false alarm, and soon we are allowed back in.
After After offloading Vic's camera equipment, we walked across the street to Burgers and Ribs. The food was great. Have I mentioned what a great location this is?
You may have.
I'm getting a little concerned because Vic is getting sick with either extreme allergies or a cold. It is coming over him fast. Luckily, I have some antihistamines back in the room. The day breaks and it's sunny and pretty. Our ship, the Ruby Princess, arrived on time this morning, and it's great to be able to look out our hotel window and see it. Vic's sinuses are a mess. He takes another pill and we head out for coffee and something to eat. We make a final stop at the Easy Mart so Vic can get some additional meds. Then we go back to the hotel to chill until boarding time.
We have concerns that they won't let us board if I'm showing signs of illness. COVID is starting to spread worldwide and everyone is getting nervous.
The plan will be for Vic to suck it up and look as good as possible and say nothing. I'll do all the talking and get us checked in. Then we'll head straight to the Horizon Court and sit till the room is ready. We walk the 1 block to the terminal and check our bags. Vic smiles as I get us checked in. I know he feels like shit, but he's not looking bad. All goes well, and we are on the ship. We are some of the first to board.
We head up to the Horizon Court and grab a table with a view overlooking the Circular Quay. There's just not a bad view anywhere of this city.
We grab lunch and some drinks. Before long, our room is ready.
The Ruby Princess was just upgraded to the Medallion class. You have a small medallion with a chip embedded that replaces your cruise card. It's touchless, so all you need to do is get within a certain distance from the door and it unlocks.
We get unpacked and Vic lays down to rest. A few hours later, Vic is feeling better and it's time for the sail out on a perfect evening. We stood up on deck 16, the uppermost deck. Vic did his photo and video thing and caught these beautiful images. With Vic still feeling the effects of this cold or whatever, we have dinner and then turn in early. We lose an hour tonight, but we're at sea the next 2 days and can sleep as late as we want. Today is a sea day. We had a good night and Vic is sounding better.
And feeling better, too. Today is breakfast in bed before we check out some onboard activities.
It's also laundry day.
Yeah. Well, we wanted to hit the next port lecture. Those have been a great sources of information for us. Let me check the Princess Patter for the time.
We also have the Captain's Circle thing. Free drinks there.
Okay, And you wanted to go to Seacrafts after that. Today is origami. Your sister would love it.
Are you going walkabout the ship, as the Aussies would say?
Yeah.
Then meet me for lunch after that.
Okay, but let's chill this afternoon out on the balcony. We have wine.
That's fine. I'm doing tea later this afternoon. You better rest up. Tonight is the first formal night.
Champagne Tower tonight.
After dinner, we have the show. It's a tribute to Queen.
Oh God, no. Don't forget, we lose another hour tonight.
Again? We just lost one last night.
Yeah, but we get them back on the way home.
Don't forget, we're walking at least a mile in the morning before breakfast. Damn, it's only day 2 and I'm food full.
Right. Are we going to the Future Cruise Test tomorrow and take advantage of the best sale ever promotion?
Yeah, I have a slot after Seacraft, but before afternoon tea open. Can we book it then?
That works for me too. I'm gonna get myself a drink at the bar with the free tickets from the Captain's Circle event thing.
No, you're not. You don't have time.
Okay, later then.
God, I love these days at sea when we do nothing but relax.
Me too. After 2 days at sea, we are approaching Fiordland National Park on the southern island of New Zealand. Here comes the boring stuff. New Zealand is made up of over 700 islands. However, over 99% of the landmass is found in only 2 islands, the north and the south. Owing to plate tectonics, this land is the only part of the Alpine Fault above water. The Australian plate is riding up over the Pacific plate, and this collision has formed the land. This is most visible on the southern island, where the land is being uplifted into what's called the Southern Alps. They rise as high as 12,000 feet above the surrounding water. During the last ice age, glaciers covered these mountains, and as they pushed towards the sea, they carved deep fjords. The southernmost part of the southern island was declared as a national park. Today we are cruising through impressively steep-walled, deep fjords. The views are breathtaking.
It's so quiet and peaceful, it reminds you of Alaska.
The morning of day 5 finds us in Dunedin, the second largest city of the southern island.
The day starts off a little cool and cloudy. It's difficult to remember that this is their summertime.
We opted for the City Hopper bus, Dunedin's version of the Hop On, Hop Off. And after consulting our trusty Princess Patter newsletter, we're ready to go.
Our first stop was the Dunedin Railway Station.
This beautiful station was designed in an eclectic, revived Flemish Renaissance style. It's the fourth station in Dunedin history and was opened in 1906.
All right, stop that. It's a train station.
Yeah, but a real nice train station. For being over 100 years old, it looks brand new. I hope they all don't post those at the same time. If I wasn't filming them, I'd have to run up and pose hanging onto the handle myself.
The morning low clouds burned off and it turned into a really beautiful warm day. The gardens in front of the station were in full summer bloom.
Dunedin was smaller than we planned on. The downtown district is very compact and walkable. It's also very European looking with a heavy dose of British influence.
One interesting twist in city planning was the streets that form an octagon in the heart of the city.
Several prominent buildings were built around the octagon, including the First Church.
There's a festival going on today.
Today is the annual Thieves Alley Market Day, the city's largest annual outdoor market event.
Music, color, food, fun, art, and artisan skills on display. The octagon and the surrounding streets jumping with activity and colorful people.
It's difficult to leave such merriment, but I can smell a watering hole.
We navigate around town to Speet's Brewery, New Zealand's largest.
Speaks is sold in New Zealand, Australia, and South Pacific Islands. Since it's new to me, I'll try a flight or two.
I actually tried a pint of cider, and I liked it. The brew house has free Wi-Fi, so we spend some quality time catching up on email and contacting family back home.
We walk back to the train station to catch the City Hopper. Along the way, we do some window shopping, and in an antique store, I found a sweet little whiskey water pitcher.
Oh, Lord.
Hey, you got your souvenirs, I got mine.
Waiting on the City Hopper, we noticed that beside being in front of the train station, we were also in front of another public building. Any shady characters lurking about?
This prison was used up till 2007 for both men and women. Today it's open for tours.
Whatever. The wait gave me a few minutes to rest.
We hopped on the bus, which was almost empty, and decided to ride it around and see some more of the area.
The driver was fun and provided some commentary on the sights.
One site we saw was Baldwin Street, recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records as the world's steepest street.
We saw it. We didn't go up or down it, but we saw it.
The bottom part is mostly flat. The steepest part is the 529 feet top section. It climbs 155 feet vertically over that 529 feet. At its maximum, about 230 feet from the top, it rises 3.3 feet for every 10 feet traveled.
The bus driver not only pointed it out, he stopped and took pictures for us, and even allowed some of us to mug for the camera with some silly shots.
Barb the bus driver!
Hey, you did it too!
Safely back on board, we have a view off our balcony of the New Zealand agricultural export. Timber farming and export represents up to 4% of the country's GDP. In the 1860s, it was found that the Monterey pine, also called the radiata pine, a tree species from California, grew especially well in New Zealand climate. Trees can be farmed and harvested every 25 to 30 years, making it a sustainable industry. One of the really expensive Asmara cruises was in port with us today. The tides are right, so it's time to leave out through the narrow channel. You can see the incoming tide covering the shoals at the edge of the channel. The old concrete harbor defenses from the Second World War are visible as well, now covered with graffiti. Also on the sail out, we saw a variety of birds. The cliffs lining the channel are a sanctuary for the southern royal albatross. The adult royal albatross has an average wingspan of 9.5 feet to 11 feet. Time to wake up Sleeping Beauty so we can get cleaned up and head out for our evening. Being at sea, there are a lot of beautiful sunrises. This morning the sun is rising for us over Akara on the southern island.
According to our Princess Patter from last night, today will be an anchor out and tender in day.
Akara is a small town, less than 1,000 residents. The ship is carrying 3 times as many passengers, so it may get a bit crowded today.
Not to worry. We have tickets for an excursion that will keep us out of town for a while. So why do you have me up at the crack of dawn?
Come out on the balcony and take a look at this.
Nice, but it needs to come with some coffee.
Well, get up and we can get you some.
I can tell from the racket outside they're launching the tenders.
Think of it as a lifeboat drill without us. Anytime we arrive in port, there are a lot of procedures and paperwork that need to be completed before they let us leave. Because of the tender process, it takes a bit of time, long enough for a bit of refreshments.
Really? This early?
Hey, we got you some coffee. You have your eye opener, I have mine.
We're anchored pretty far out. It's about a 25-minute ride in. Our tour was booked through TripAdvisor, so we are independent of the ship today.
The real reason we're up and in line to be one of the first off the ship was because we thought we had an early tour.
As it turns out, we were mistaken. The tour is until 12:45 this afternoon. But we checked in anyway and were lucky enough to get an earlier time. It's a family-owned and run business, and they couldn't have been easier to work with.
But we still had some time before the tour, so we decided to grab some breakfast in town at Bully Hayes, just off the beach. Pretty good Eggs Benedict.
A better breakfast than on the ship.
Afterwards, we board a smaller boat for our tour. Barb found this tour on TripAdvisor, and it had really great reviews. A marine wildlife cruise of Ankara Harbor.
Upon boarding, we had our choice of a drink, alcoholic or non.
Alcoholic, please.
Now that's a shocker. Meet Albie, the official dolphin spotter. When Albie gets beside it, the dolphins are close.
The tour starts at the pier and heads up the bay past the lighthouse towards the Cathedral Caves and Penguin Caves. Small villages dot the coastline. Many of them are Maori villages with gathering rooms and community centers. The flag at Greens Point. The British flag was raised here in August 1840 to tell the French to bugger off. The Brits have claimed this land for their own.
We are cruising along, and seemingly out of nowhere, dolphins appear. These are Hector dolphins. They are the world's smallest dolphins and also endangered. So cute.
Albie gets right into the action. This guy was kind of hanging around.
The dolphin's checking out the dog. He's the official dog spotter for the pod.
There's lots of theories on why dolphins swim around with boats, but they seem as curious about us as we do about them, and they seem to enjoy it as well.
We had a close-up encounter experience with several pods. Some dolphins swim with the boat and would jump up out of the water. Others would dart close to the boat and disappear. As we moved on, the dolphins disappeared as quickly as they appeared.
We cruised on towards the Cathedral Caves. As we enter the cove, Elephant Rock is on our left. The coastline is very jagged, and with the surf, it's scenic but not inviting.
Competition is stiff between several sightseeing boats to get as deep into the cave as possible. Someone makes an attempt to sing, but it's not a magic moment.
The seals and seabirds seem to be right at home on these rocks. This area is definitely teeming with wildlife in the sea, air, and on the land. On the way back, a rain squall chases us inside the cabin.
But the crew gave us butter chocolate chip cookies, Granny's own recipe. Yum. We get a brief glimpse of a white-winged penguin swimming nearby. White wings are the smallest of the penguin species.
We passed the agricultural farm on the way in, pens in the ocean where they grow Atlantic salmon. Here's a better view of what the pens look like.
We had a great time and would recommend this tour.
Definitely. It's time to go back to the pier.
With the rest of the afternoon, we decide to walk the town. It's not that big and doesn't take long.
Good thing because we're dodging some raindrops. We tendered back to the ship. While they retrieved the lifeboats, Barb and I got ready for drinks and dinner. The morning starts off gray and overcast and very windy. Precision docking a large ship in these conditions is challenging. The Asmara cruise ship Quest that has been following us requested assistance at tugs to keep from hitting us and drifting into the pier.
There's a light drizzle as we depart the ship for our tour today. The port has a covered area where passengers and crew can wait and access free Wi-Fi.
Smile, Barb.
Shut up and stop that.
Okay, moving on. Having familiarized ourselves with info from the Princess Patter, including their rudimentary map, we are set.
We have a city sights and coastline tour. It takes us all around Wellington, New Zealand's capital city. Given the weather, it seems like the right choice.
The first stop is a quick view of the city and the harbor. As you can hear from the sound on this video, the wind might have gotten even worse. From there, it's onto the southeastern tip of the windswept Moa Point and the Wahine Memorial Park. The Wahine Ferry began to get into trouble before she was wrecked off the nearby Barrett Reef on the 10th of April, 1968. 53 people lost their lives as a result of the wreck.
The memorial includes parts of the ship that were salvaged and built into a mound that represents the ship.
Our next stop was the top of Mount Victoria. This 643-foot-high point provided a panoramic view of Wellington and the surrounding area.
The view from the top was nice. It had stopped raining by then, but it was still windy and cool.
While there, we ran into someone from back in the States.
Scott Brown, U.S. Ambassador to New Zealand and Samoa. He introduces himself and agrees to a photo op.
And you took him up on it?
You bet I did.
Ambassador Brown is the former senator from Massachusetts as well.
And a handsome man, too.
He's a former model.
Yeah.
Since we didn't need any services from our Department of State, we boarded the bus for our next stop.
The Botanical Gardens, with a beautiful display of roses.
And the all-important bathrooms.
Besides the bathroom break, Vic and I split a warm cheese scone.
With empty bladders and full tummies, we are back on the bus. Next stop is the cable car. The cable car is a funicular between the main shopping district and a suburb 400 feet up the hill. Here comes our ride.
Nice view from up here. To ride it one way takes about 5 minutes. The bus is dropping us off at the top and will pick us up at the bottom.
The funicular originally opened in 1902, and the tunnels have been enhanced with LED lights.
And after the short ride, we are looking for the bus. The driver said, by the cable car sign.
Our 3-hour tour ends, and we have free time downtown. What I had hoped would be a quaint, interesting waterfront for us to see and visit turned out to be not so quaint and not so interesting.
Yeah, not so charming as we had hoped, and with the wind blowing a gazillion miles an hour, it was a bust.
We found a nice restaurant to grab some lunch. Afterwards, I took a few photos as we make our way back to the ship. Back at the pier, we take advantage of free Wi-Fi to send some snaps back home. Good morning. The Princess Patter says it's an exciting day in Napier.
I don't know about exciting, but it's definitely an early one.
You bet. We're off the ship at 7 a.m. and need to be back at 2 p.m. A fast day today.
Just like in Wellington yesterday, this is a working port. The ship provides shuttle buses into the center of town and back.
The main part of town is not that big and is supposed to be very walkable.
Back in 1931, Napier was hit by a major earthquake. The town suffered extensive damage and the loss of 256 inhabitants.
The prevailing architecture style at the time was Art Deco. As such, Napier sports a number of Art Deco style buildings.
It makes for a cute town. Downtown is clean, friendly, and steeped in the Art Deco style.
In fact, it really plays up the 1920s and 30s style and look. This was the period of the Flappers and the Classic Cars, songs by Irving Berlin and Cab Calloway.
You could hire a classic car for a ride to the winery or an all-day tour.
The folks in Napier go all out for the tourist. It's really different and sweet.
Speaking of different, what is that?
I believe singing possums.
And that?
A moa made out of possum fur.
A what?
A moa. A genre of 9 species of flightless birds native to New Zealand that went extinct by 1445. You want to know moa?
Stop that. No.
What about more possum pictures?
No.
Okay, back to Napier, a town that loves possums. Napier sits right on the coast and boasts a long beach promenade. With palm trees swaying in the breeze, it's a lovely setting for a beach stroll.
But no swimming today. Signs warned of dangerous undertow. Better make sure you keep that dog on the leash.
But also on the beach is the Pacific Pro-Am mini golf course. Want to play around?
A mini golf? Sure.
I see what you did there.
Who's who buys the ice cream? That's a 2 for me.
Yeah. Next hole.
That's another 2 for me. Loser buys the ice cream. And another.
You see how this is going? All in good fun, but I ended up buying the ice cream.
With the short time we had left, we decided to walk through the park and see the flowers.
The park has a reminder that even this small island nation has a price to pay for its freedom.
Let's hang out down by the beach and wait for the bus back to the ship.
When we get back to the ship, we see that the town is turned out for the send-off.
Because of the short day, a lot of passengers were trying to board at the same time. It made for long lines at the scanners.
The townsfolk provided a small car show and a band to provide entertainment while we wait.
Those people stood outside by the ship for over 3 hours entertaining us.
We've never seen anything like it.
What a friendly town.
The band wanted to play on,
But it was last dance. Final passengers aboard, it was time to go.
even the tugboat took a spin on the dance floor. It's a beautiful morning and we have a great view of the extinct volcano across the harbor. Just a reminder of what lies below and what we'll see today.
The Celebrity Solstice is in port with us today.
We booked a local tour for today. It lasts about 6 hours, so we head to the buffet, grab breakfast. Everyone's on the bus and we're headed out for the day. The bus driver guide is very friendly. Turns out he's the owner of the tour company as well.
The first stop is a kiwi fruit farm. Kiwi are grown in many places in the world, but seem to do really well here in New Zealand.
Kiwi fruit is actually the Chinese gooseberry, but in the 1950s, when New Zealand started to export their fruit to the U.S., the largest producer of the Chinese gooseberries thought it needed a less political name. The owner announced that from that point forward, they would call it kiwi fruit.
Not knowing anything about kiwi and how it grows, it surprised me to see it grows on a vine. They erect a wire support system and the vines grow along the wires.
For people like us who really don't care for kiwis, the farm makes and sells kiwi ice cream.
This farm produces two types of kiwis, a traditional-looking green center fruit and a golden one. Vic got the green and I got the gold, so we could taste both. Not bad, but not great either.
After a little mugging with the kiwi bird statues, it was time to head out. And no, kiwis aren't that big in real life. They're about the size of a chicken and they are nocturnal and scarce. These will have to do.
The next stop is the Thermal Village. Don't ask me to pronounce the name. I can't. Won't even try.
Okay, well, this village is owned and operated by the villagers themselves. They actually do live here and share their village life with everyone as a sort of cultural exchange.
The people of the village have lived here for over 200 years and can trace their roots back to the original Maori settlers of the valley in 1325.
This village sits atop a series of thermal pools and geysers.
There are boiling hot springs and holes in the earth with steam rising up all around.
Here the villagers are cooking corn as a demonstration for us.
Here in the communal kitchen, the raw corn on the cob is placed in a mesh bag. The bag's placed in the hot springs. Depth and time depend on what's cooking and how you like it. The water is far too hot for any harmful bacteria or organisms to live in it, and it tasted like cooked corn. No mineral taste to it at all.
The villagers have created channels from other heated pools to feed the communal baths.
It may seem rudimentary, but this village is over 200 years old, purposely built on top of this thermal to take advantage of what the gods have provided.
The pools seen are at different temperatures for adults and children.
The tubs are drained and scrubbed clean several times a week.
Some homes are built over thermal vents and are heated by the rising steam. Others have piped-in hot water for heat. After its thermal use, the water is allowed to flow into a nearby river.
The villagers have turned our curiosity into an income source. By day, the village hosts a steady stream of visitors, but once it closes at night, it's villagers only.
Along with the British settlers came the missionaries. Today, many Maori are Christians.
It makes for an interesting mix of old and new gods, as you can see in the cemetery.
At the Cultural Center, the villagers offer a sample of the type of welcoming dance that traditionally was given for contact with a new tribe.
If you were new to the Maori language, this seems entertaining and friendly enough. Very welcoming.
But then there's the not-so-subtle reminder that their young strapling warriors are very capable of defending the village.
Essentially, this next part is about killing you and eating you if you don't behave.
In the end, we all sing together to show we are one big happy family.
I don't know, that guy doesn't look too happy.
If anyone needed reminding about the geothermal activity here in the village, they only need to wander a few more yards to the geysers.
Hot water and steam shoot out of vents in the rock. The yellow on the rocks is sulfur. It collects on the rocks as it condensates out of the steam.
Groundwater and some surface water flow back in and sink down to the hot rocks, turn to steam, and the process starts all over again. After a quick look around the gift shop and one last selfie, it was time to load up the bus and head for our next stop.
The redwood forest of New Zealand.
Forestry and wood exports is a large part of New Zealand agricultural industry. Several species of trees were tried here to find ones that would grow well.
2 trees from North America grow especially well here due to the volcanic soils and abundant rainfall. The Radia pine, we already talked about, and the California redwood.
In fact, the redwood tree grows faster here in New Zealand than it does in California, over 70 feet in just 100 years.
This 15-acre preserve is actually an experiment started over 100 years ago. Today it has hiking and bike trails open to the public and a canopy walk.
After our stroll in the forest and the ever-present selfies, it was time to head back to the ship.
The last of the stragglers made their way back on board the ship. It was time to throw the lines and head off.
We were parked between a small container ship and the bigger Celebrity Solstice. With Azipod engines and bow thrusters, we moved sideways out of our berth. Just like in other ports, huge piles of timber exports await loading onto bulk cargo carriers.
As we pass, passengers on both ships wave at each other.
And the captains get into the act, saluting each other with the ship's horns. Good morning. We have a beautiful morning in Auckland. The ship is docked in the harbor just steps away from the city center.
Today we are doing a hop-on, hop-off tour. We need to be back near the ship by 3 o'clock. We are meeting my distant cousin, Mike Comboy, around 3:30, and we need to find the coffee shop.
The roads in front of the harbor entrance were choked with construction and traffic. We spotted the Ho-Ho kiosk and purchased our tickets.
The Ho-Ho in Auckland included a round trip to Devonport. It's supposed to be an upscale area with cafes and seafood restaurants.
The ferry terminal is next door to the ship, so it's easy to find. It's not crowded, so we have our choice of seats. The ride over gives you a spectacular view of Auckland and the Ruby Princess.
Our plan didn't take into consideration the time of day. We were off the ship too early for Auckland and way too early for Devonport. Literally nothing is open.
We wander around till 10 o'clock and find a cafe open for breakfast. We discuss heading back to the city.
Devonport may be trendy and hip, but it's sleepy and quiet, nothing going on and not much to look at. But on the way back to the ferry, we walk past a chocolate shop, and it's open.
We rarely pass up a chance for handmade chocolates. Barb selects a nice collection for later.
The ladies in the shop were extremely friendly. They even let Vic take video of them working.
I was happy to shoot through the glass, but they even opened the door so I could get better shots. She's processing milk chocolate.
Okay, enough chocolate. We need to go.
Okie dokie. Back in the city, we hop on the Ho-Ho bus for a nice drive around Auckland and the surrounding area.
We spend the rest of the morning and early afternoon just riding around the city. Auckland is a clean, modern city. It's not overly picturesque except for the harbor.
Time does not allow us to visit the few sites we find interesting, with one exception. The New Zealand Maritime Museum is conveniently located on the Princess Wharf, close to the ship and the cafe where we'll be meeting Mike later.
The museum houses lots of models of ships and several actual boats. These include native Maori canoes and crafts as well.
Being an island nation, the ocean plays an important part in the history of New Zealand. The Maori settled the islands about 700 years ago. Captain James Cook first visited in 1769.
The display of early navigational devices was nice, but I'm glad our ship has GPS to go by.
This is an early version of a water jet propelled craft. Water jet propulsion was invented by a New Zealand engineer, Bill Hamilton, and is used in ships big and small all over the world.
The variety and quality of exhibits was really good. Everything from models of large ships to actual vessels, and even interactive displays.
We had some like this when I was a kid, and a West Bend 9 horsepower that we used up at Gun Lake.
In order to meet my distant cousin, we needed to leave and head toward Mojo on Queen Street. We find the cafe and there is a guy sitting there by himself, bald, glasses, and a beard.
I was elected to make first contact. It wasn't Mike.
When he does arrive, I search his features for anything familiar, but we're too far apart in genealogy to share anything more than a name. Nice guy. We spend about an hour talking to him and then head back to the ship.
Barb was feeling a bit run down during the day, so it will be an early evening for both of us.
Today is our last stop before 2 days at sea and back to Sydney. It's hard to believe the trip is almost over.
True, but there will be about 6 days before we are home. Just enjoy today.
We are at anchor, so today is a tender port.
Right. We've booked a local tour.
We've had good luck with the local tours. Where do we pick this one up?
At the Yacht Club.
Boat tour?
Nah, bus tour. Bay Islands Highlights tour with glowworms to be exact.
Glowworms?
Yep, you'll love it. Now get on the bus.
Our first stop is this hilltop with a great view of the bay. This is the Waitangi Treaty Grounds.
This is the founding place for the nation of New Zealand. In the 1830s, the English crown wanted to secure sovereignty over the islands. A treaty was negotiated here between 500 Maori chiefs and a representative of the British Crown. The treaty, in Maori and English, was signed here in 1840.
Our next stop is only a few miles away. The area around the Bay of Islands is the most significant historical area of New Zealand.
This is Haruru Falls. This short waterfalls is the first natural barrier the Maori encountered on the Watangi River.
Because of this, it became an important trading area for the Maori tribes of the area and later the English.
Christian missionaries reported seeing as many as 100 Maori canoes beached in the shore by the falls.
Today, it's a popular area for hikers, kayakers, and campers.
Our next stop is basically a pit stop. It just happens to be a chocolate store.
The bathrooms were clean and they gave out free samples of chocolate. The real prize was the wood workshop next door.
This little shack is filled with beautiful local handmade wooden products. That table and chairs cost twice as much as this entire trip.
But we did find a couple of Christmas ornaments. We left the table behind for the next tour bus.
Good thing, because we are off to the Kirikiri Mission Station.
The mission station was established in 1819 by the Anglican Mission Society. The mission station house was completed in 1822 and is the oldest European-style building in New Zealand.
The stone store, originally a storehouse, was completed in 1836 and is the first and oldest stone structure in New Zealand. The surrounding European garden has been continuously cultivated since 1820, and it too is the oldest in New Zealand.
The Anglican Church on the site was built in 1878 and is still being used today for worship service.
Our tour continues on to Rainbow Falls. The falls are not far from the car park as the sign indicates, but notice that little warning sign about steep drops? Of course, if you want to impress your girlfriend, you offer to carry her since she has the wrong shoes on for hiking.
Hey, how come you didn't offer to carry me?
Because we both end up at the bottom of the ravine. My knees aren't what they used to be.
The name Rainbow Waterfall is a translation of the Maori name, which was Rainbow Waters.
The Kirikiri River washes over a hard basalt layer of rock here. Water has eroded the softer mudstone around the shelf, leaving this 88-foot single-drop waterfall. After this refreshing respite, we're off to our next destination, which is the Te Mawati Mission.
The mission house, built in 1832, is the only survivor of the 3 mission homes founded in the 1830 on behalf of the Church Missionary Society. The house is well preserved and is fully furnished with period pieces.
That includes rope beds, chamber pots, and even a piano. There's a display of tools that would be found on the mission station, including gouges and a hand-turned lathe. With England being on the other side of the earth, you needed to be able to make most things you needed yourself. They even have architectural drawings on display for building the house. The mission station was established to teach Maori Western farming techniques and to preach about the Christian God. Te Mawati was the first Western farm established in New Zealand.
It's pretty neat. You expect the original owner, Reverend Marsden, and his family to walk in and be right at home with the house and the furnishings.
The mission grounds include a church and cemetery, of course, several outbuildings, and several memorials to soldiers who died in skirmishes with the Maori.
Okay, what's next there, dear?
Worms. More exact, glowworms.
Oh, God.
Glowworms in caves.
Really?
You betcha. Enough of this culture and history of New Zealand. Let's get to the worms.
Okay, go with it. This is your baby.
The glowworm is a larva stage of a fungus gnat. The glowing is a bioluminescence process that's found in a number of species, like fireflies. It's just a chemical reaction.
To see them, you need to go deep into a cave where the glowworms live. Tour guides give out lanterns and have them spaced out among the tour, because after the first turn in the cave, it gets totally dark.
The larvae hatch from eggs laid by the adult females on the ceilings of the cave. We are allowed to take pictures in this section of the cave since we're not near the glowworms. You get an idea of what the cave ceilings look like. Once they hatch, the larvae start to glow.
Like snapping a glow stick?
Well, yes, that's really a great analogy.
So why do they glow?
The short answer is to eat. The larva's main job is to grow up to adulthood. To do that, it needs to feed on other insects. Glowworms are found in caves where a stream runs into the cave. Insects lay their eggs on leaves near the cave entrance. Some of those leaves fall off and into the stream. The insects hatch, but inside the cave, it's total darkness, except for the glow of the glowworms on the ceiling. The insects fly up to the ceiling where they get entangled in a web spun by the glowworm larva. The web spun by the larva has strands hanging down. On these strands, the larva has put a sticky substance in small droplets along the length. The insects get stuck to the droplets and then eaten by the glowworm larva.
Once deep enough in the cave, our guide instructs us to turn off the lamps. It looks like this. The absolute darkness is disconcerting at first. You need to hang on to the railings or you might lose your balance and fall.
But not long after, as your eyes grow accustomed to the darkness, you start to see the glowing dots on the ceiling above you.
It's really quite beautiful, like stars in the night sky.
This is a professional video shot over 60 hours inside the cave. It's really neat and gives you a better idea of what they look like. There's just no way to film anything with my equipment inside the cave.
We made our way back to the surface. It's been a long and eventful tour, and we're all ready to head back to the ship.
Our tour bus drops us back at the yacht club, where we catch a tender back to the ship. With everyone back on board, we sail out of the bay and set course back to Sydney. The realization is really settling in that we are nearing the end of the cruise. But we have the next 2 days at sea to relax, have fun, and finally, pack.
Vic and I went on our usual walk around the promenade deck before breakfast. I did a little shopping and then went off to crafts.
For the first time, I entered the egg drop contest. The ship gives you the materials and an egg. You come up with the idea.
Some people take this real serious. They bring their own materials.
I brought my superior knowledge.
Vic's egg didn't survive, but 4 others did, and it was fun to watch. Later in the day, the seas got a little rougher.
The captain ballasted the ship down on the starboard side to attempt to give us a smoother ride.
It gave the ship a bit of a list, but it makes it smoother. I'm all for it. No falling and breaking anything.
Dress code for tonight is dressy. Need to break out a tie, I guess.
On the menu for tonight is beef Wellington. Yum! Beef Wellington never disappoints.
I'm going for the lobster tail and prawns. After dinner, we take in the last evening show of the cruise.
and then a few minutes out on the balcony to enjoy the night air.
The next morning is a nice day at sea.
I'm having a rough morning with my sinuses, so Vic is on his own to walk the promenade.
Afterwards, I take the opportunity to film a few odd video clips. In this clip, you see my GoPro stuck to the side of the glass railing of the ship and our neighbor below. I got to meet him earlier in the trip because of this. Oops, the camera fell off. Salt on the glass affected the suction cup and I didn't have a safety line on it. Luckily, it didn't hit anyone and the guy was nice about it. In this, an attempt at a stand-up, but severe backlighting
And multiple screw-ups.
made this unusable. Oh well.
By the time Vic is finished playing around, I'm feeling much better.
Yep, her notes say coffee, but the camera doesn't lie.
That's not the right photo. I had coffee.
Right, coffee.
One highlight on the last day is the cooking demonstration with the head chef and the maitre d'. They put on quite a show. It's very funny and entertaining.
And we always attend the final day t-shirt sale feeding frenzy. You can buy t-shirts from cruises you've never been on. Only 2 for $25.
Rounding out the day is dinner with my all-time favorite dessert, Baked Alaska.
Then it's back to the room to finish packing and to put our big suitcases out in the hall for pickup and offloading by the crew.
At 5 a.m. the next morning, we start the endless day to travel back home.
The Ruby Princess glides quietly into the still of the Sydney morning. The skilled captain and crew make this maneuver look so simple, a testament to their professionalism. We nudge up to the same spot where we boarded just 2 weeks earlier.
We grab breakfast in the buffet and wait for our group, Orange One, to be called.
Then it's the whirlwind rush to find our bags, get to the bus, get to the airport.
It's my turn in the barrel for the endless security checks. The last one is at the gate before boarding.
While she's getting screened one more time, I managed to get enough overhead space for our carry-ons.
The flight is full, no empty seats, and it's a long one. We have a window and a middle.
In the time that we've been gone, the COVID crisis has gotten much worse. We are concerned that we will be quarantined in LA.
But we do get to board our LA to Atlanta flight on time.
And after 24 hours of travel, bumpy flights, extra TSA searches, customs and immigration delays, we are finally home.
But it was a great trip.
Yeah, I agree. Great trip. We just got home and I'm ready to go again.
How about we get some sleep first?